Arlington police have an arrest warrant for a man in connection with a robbery at Winchester Savings Bank 1 year ago. 40-year-old Michael Moran of Somerville will be charged with 1 count of armed robbery while masked with a dangerous weapon. This happened July 17, 2019, when officers responded to the bank on Medford Street. Police say a male suspect entered the bank wearing dark glasses and a Red Sox hat, his face covered with a cloth. The suspect allegedly removed a small knife and demanded money from the teller, according to police. The suspect then fled the bank with an undisclosed amount of cash. No one was injured in the heist, and tonight police say Moran is currently in custody for an unrelated incident in Tewksbury. Also tonight on ACMi News, Black Lives Matter Day took place in Arlington July the 13th. We talked to an area NAACP leader about several sensitive issues that have played out in recent weeks and what must now be done to eradicate racial inequity. The town election recount is over, and in the end, despite slightly different tallies, not much changed. We talked to the newest member of the town select board about his vision for the future. And Arlington school leaders come to terms with the problem of reported racial disparities within the school system. Where do things stand now? And where do we go from here?
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of ACMi News. Glad you're with us. I'm Jeff Barnes. To date, the Arlington Public School calendar has marked the first day of school for Tuesday, September 8th. That's less than 2 months from now. And as school leaders feverishly try moving away from distance learning, how to do it safely is still a work in progress with varying opinions. State guidelines require teachers and students to wear a face mask, and desks should be 6 feet apart, which is the social distancing standard. As that debate rages on, school leaders hosted a virtual panel this week to discuss what seems to be racial disproportions within Arlington Public Schools' disciplinary data. The webinar took place on July 15th and included Superintendent Kathleen Bodie, Assistant Superintendent Roderick McNeil Jr., and Arlington school principals. It was moderated by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator Jillian Harvey. The purpose of the webinar was to dissect recent disciplinary data, identify steps to address issues of disproportionality, and respond to questions from the community. Data reviewed by the school committee last month showed students of color have accounted for a disproportionately higher number of detentions than white students since 2017. At Arlington High School, for instance, where black students make up roughly 4% of the population, they received nearly 15% of detentions in 2017-2018, nearly 10% of detentions in 2018-2019, and 17% of detentions in 2019-2020. Hispanic students, who make up 6% of the population at the high school, received just over 13% of detentions in 2017-2018, nearly 12.5% of detentions in 2018-2019, and more than 12% of detentions in 2019-2020. White and Asian students tended to have a lower number of detentions in relation to their student populations.
The issue of discipline disproportionality has been ongoing discussion and focus in the Arlington Public Schools for many years. I want our students to know that we are listening. We acknowledge that discipline disparities remain a problem.
After the murder of George Floyd in May, 36-year-old data specialist J. Mike Remy took to Instagram to explain why he walked away from his job at Arlington Public Schools 3 years ago.
And while compiling that data, what I found was that for the town of Arlington, that had at the time roughly 1,400 students enrolled, about 3% of those students were identified as Hispanic or Black or special education. And that 3% of students made up 80% of the detentions, expulsions, and suspensions throughout the district.
He says when he brought numbers reportedly alluding to racial disparities in student discipline, he says he was instructed to downplay his findings. The Instagram video, which to Remy's surprise exceeded 25,000 views, drew a very quick response from School Superintendent Kathleen Bodie, who says school leaders delved into the data, spending thousands of hours and tens of thousands of dollars to address such disparities. But you may recall, Remy's accusations don't stand alone. Several Arlington High School minority students made their voices heard at a Black alum rally, which drew a crowd in excess of 300 people to Town Hall last month.
Understand that there's a system in place and understand that you perpetrate it. You're part of it. We need to change it. But first, just listen to the voices that are crying. Listen to the voices that are in pain. Listen to the voices that are angered. If we want to change, we need people in power to listen.
I would just tell them to reach out to people of color around them, hear their stories, listen to their testimonies, understand their pain and what they're feeling at the time. Now's not the time for it to become a black and white issue, but it's an issue for everyone to come together on. It's no longer that black people, because it involves them, they should be the only ones fighting. We need our white allies because they are people who can easily reach government. Sometimes they have higher standings, or the standings that they have can help us and help us achieve our goals.
ACMi News contacted school leaders to get their response to this story, but we did not hear back. But in this year, when so many events have given the nation pause to listen to allegations of racial inequity, educators say they are definitely striving to do better. School officials and town leaders readily admit they hear all the complaints, they own it, and they say now they are very determined to do something about it. For nearly a year now, a proposal for a new boutique hotel along Mass Ave has been in the works. Last week, nearly 50 people showed up to a town redevelopment board meeting to hash out the complexities of such a project right here in Arlington Heights. In the end, the board tabled the project until more is heard about further traffic and shadow studies at the meeting, which is now scheduled for August the 17th. Several residents made their concerns known, mainly about parking, zoning, and the safety of many children who live in the area of the Heights. Board members say more information should be known, in their opinion, in about a month or so. Now, you'll recall after the June town election, the Board of Registrars set a recount date for July 9th at Town Hall. The main focus was on 3 races, Select Board and Town Meeting 3-year terms in Precincts 6 and 17. Veteran Select Board member Diane Mahan topped out with nearly 6,700 votes, and the recount confirmed Len Diggins' win, giving him nearly 6,300 votes. That's 75 votes more than challenger Micaiah Healy. I had the chance to talk to Mr. Diggins about the recount and, well, to congratulate him again. Len, it's always good to talk to you, and we talked after you won the town election, and you basically won again, so congratulations again.
Well, thank you. I've been getting a lot of those double congratulations, so that's you know, I mean, it's better than an alternative.
That's exactly right. How was it during that period? You were at 4 select board meetings, and then the recount was instituted. It was a close race, so you could definitely see the justification for a recount, but had to be in the back of your mind. It's like, my God, I'm sitting here in the select board meeting. Am I going to be here next week? How did that feel?
Yeah, well, the fact of the matter, though, is that even though it seemed like a small margin, it really wasn't, because we have a lot of confidence in the optical readers. I mean, they are validated before the election. I mean, and so then it really comes down to a matter of how many ballots had to be handled by hand. I mean, and it just wasn't enough of those to change the outcome. Plus, then, there have been lots of recounts, and the margin has to be a lot closer than it was to really change the outcome. So it wasn't so much that I was concerned about the outcome as much as it was, how do I behave in a way that is respectful of the recount process? So there were things that I just wasn't doing, especially when it came to interacting with other people, initiating certain initiatives, a little redundant there, because I wanted to respect the process and not tell people, yeah, I'm really 100% sure nothing's going to change, so why don't we just move forward? I wanted to respect the process, so I held off on some things.
Now that it's solidified, now that you're a member of the select board, what business would you like to see done in, let's say, the next year or two with, possibly the backdrop of COVID-19 being around for quite some time?
Oh, boy. Well, if you're going to extend the backdrop and have COVID-19 around for a long time, then it's really going to come down to what kind of federal and state support we get for our budget. And we can only hope that the feds will do the right thing and support us on the local level, because we're going to need a lot of financial support to keep all the services that people really count on a day-to-day basis. And with respect to the stuff that the town funds on its own, our revenue is going to be down, primarily from the businesses that are going to have less business. So what in some cases has been seen as a detriment, meaning that we rely mostly on property taxes and have very little reliance on retail for our revenue. That is going to be a bit of a plus in this situation because we're going to take less of a hit to our budget as a result. Now, if property values start coming down, and there doesn't seem to be any indication of that, then we would be in more trouble. But at the same time, we do have to be aware of the fact that it may very well be the case that people don't have enough income, to pay their property taxes because their employment situation has changed. And so, as a town, we'll have to be prepared to deal with that and see what we can do to help property owners that do have a hard time paying their property taxes. And so I'm laying out the problem. I'm not laying out a solution because that's not at all apparent yet. There's certainly something that I know the long range planning committee, is thinking about. And so they can give us some guidance as to how to deal with that when it comes to the nuts and bolts. Well, they'll come down to the finance committee.
And in the middle of all this, the business must continue. I know that right now the select board is looking at the boutique hotel along Mass Ave and the proposed possibly up to 140 apartment units on the MIRAC property. What are your thoughts and what can you tell us about that in the preliminary stages of both major projects here?
Well, I actually know a little bit more about the MIRAC one, and I'll tell you one of the concerns that's really come up on that one is the loss of studio space for artists, and so there are 16 studios that are going by the wayside on that one, and it's also indicative of just the struggle that artists are having in the region in general. And so I am doing some work with Adria Arch from ACAC and some other representatives from that group. I think trying to help artists is a great thing in general. First, I think artists could use support because they are an important voice in the community and can help the community process issues large and small. But also, they tend to be low income. So by providing space for them and opportunity, we can help people with lower incomes. And if we target well, we try to bring in outside artists, we can help maybe bring in some diverse voices, some alternative voices, and help them get to see what Arlington has to offer, but also get some insights from them as to how they feel about Arlington. So I think it can be something that works in multiple ways for the community and the region.
I hear you. Well, Len, again, congratulations again for winning again to the select board. We look forward to you being part of the community in a big way, and we look forward to talking to you in the future about any things that may crop up.
Yeah, sure. And I hope you don't get eaten. You look like some big insect's going to come.
I'm waiting for some big ant to come, from behind me, and then you're going to hear me scream, and it's never pretty, Len. It's never pretty.
Okay. All right.
Good to see you, my friend, and just take it easy, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
You'll recall in June, the Select Board proclaimed July 13th Black Lives Matter Day in Arlington. We already told you about the Black Alum Rally that was held in front of Town Hall last June. Now, one of the keynote speakers at that event was Zane Crute from the Mystic Valley area branch of the NAACP. Black Lives Matter Day was the perfect opportunity to talk to Zane about the extraordinary events of this year, including Arlington High School's re-examination of its own emblem, statues that have been toppled nationwide in recent weeks, and professional sports team owners who are finally succumbing to pressure. In fact, on the very day I talked to Zane, Washington's NFL team, after years and years of controversy, finally capitulated. So it looks as though Arlington is also doing a little soul searching. How do you respond to that?
I think it's a good time to start that. It seems to be the year of change. It's a perfect day today with the NFL team that we thought would never change, announcing to change their symbol and their mascot. And then we see, NASCAR tearing down a Confederate flag. We see all these ongoing changes. So it seems to be the people want change. Arlington should make the change and remove the Native American symbol as well.
You have a lot of people who say, look, it's not, we're not making light of this. We are honoring them by using these emblems for our NFL teams and our MLB teams. What's your response to that when they say that?
Well, I guess it depends on who's saying that. It's always like, I don't want to personally, as a black male, speak for like, oh, this isn't offensive to Asian Americans. This is honored Asian Americans. So I always want to be considerate of, I guess, who's doing the speaking as well.
Do you see this as a positive step, at least in the right direction, where people can feel more inclusive of all races, all religions, all creeds?
I think it is a positive step. From everything going on this year, I think it's going to allow some symbols that permeate racism in our society to be torn down. Even though, that being said, it's not necessarily the end-all be-all recipe to fixing the systems, just tearing down statues or changing mascots, but it's a good way to, shape the future so we don't have these symbols of reminders.
Do you feel as though there's a fine line, though, between, let's say, a football team logo from Washington and a statue that, in no way is a caricature, but an accurate depiction of a human being who at one time lived in this area and honored the land?
It's hard for me to speak on that per se, but it's going to end up getting carried away. We got the whole statue movement now, from Columbus to Confederate. It's going to get to a point that some people are going to want to, get rid of every single statue we have, whether it gets to Martin Luther King and JFK for some of their extracurricular activities. I don't know, but so I'm not the appropriate one to speak on every single symbol of whether it offends anyone or should be there or not.
Right. I noticed you didn't even mention the team name from Washington, D.C. So obviously, I take it you feel very strongly about this. And without a doubt, are you happy with the fact that, and we're doing this interview on Monday, that the team is considering a new name? Cleveland, their baseball team, is considering a new name, or at least a new emblem. Does that make you happy?
I'm very happy about the team from, the NFL team. I felt like that's been the most egregious example that we've had. Like, there's always some mascots are worse than others. Like some people could present the argument that's honoring. I don't think there's any presentation with the Washington one. And I recall when I was in second grade, I think this was not second grade, seventh grade. It was 2002. I watched this great documentary that was put on by Native Americans speaking about how they wanted that mascot to go away. And they created all these like fake mascots, like, would this be okay? The Los Angeles Negroes, the Kansas City Jews. Like, so I really thought when I was young, still in middle school, that we were going to see that go away sometime soon. But then almost 20 years passes by and it's finally happened. And so it's exciting to see, but I can't believe it took this long.
Yeah. And Snyder did say, Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington team, basically said that this will never change. I think he put out in a tweet a few years ago, this will never change, and you can use all caps. Never say never, I guess, in a case like this.
Yeah, hopefully it should work well for them too, because it seems like it's been one of the worst teams in the NFL since I've been alive. Like, you would have seen, like, they got to do something to change.
Right. Without a doubt, they need something.
Almost like the curse for it. Like,
what is your opinion about some of the statues toppling now? There's a great debate about the Confederate statues coming down. However, I think a lot of people in this country did not know that a lot of those Confederate statues that were erected were not erected right after the Civil War in 1865. They were erected around, a lot of them were erected between 1898 and 1915. And that was in the heart of the Jim Crow South at the time. So I think a lot of people are getting an education in that as well.
Well, I'm big against getting rid of the Confederate statues as well, because I see it the same way, Germany sees like the Nazis. They were on a losing side of a civil war. Why are we, preserving these people or these symbols? Like, they have a place, but in like a museum and a history book, not in like, let's celebrate the losing general of people who fought against the United States in a civil war. Like, I don't see like the purpose of that.
Do you have any objection to seeing Civil War statues, let's say Confederate statues, on U.S. Battlefields like Gettysburg or Vicksburg or Chancellorsville?
Personally, I can't speak for everyone, but I would see that as the same thing as like a museum. Like, in a battlefield, as it's a historical site, so that's a little different than like, hey, let's put this in front of Arlington Town Hall and say, rah, rah, Confederacy.
What are you happy with the statues coming down? Like when you see like U.S. Grant statue came down in San Francisco. Now there's a man who led the Union, and signed the papers with Robert E. Lee and Appomattox in April of 1865. Are you happy with some of the statues coming down, or do you think maybe the movement has gone beyond the boundaries of what they first stood for? Because a lot of people are concerned now that since this is happening and since it's perpetuating, the real message, the root of the problem where everybody wants to get to is being lost.
I would agree with that. You know, Jeff, our current political climate is so far to this way, far to that way. Everything gets carried away. So it's going to get to a point that I do see it getting to the point that we're going to start tearing down dead president statues, which I understand almost every person in this country, especially the older presidents, were not perfect by any means, but we have to look at them in a historical context and not just say, okay, this president was a bad man. We understand. We should be learning that in history anyway. It's going to get to a point that, some people want to abolish the police. That's not the NAACP stance, for example. We want to see the reforms. We want to see a just society for all, but we don't believe the appropriate measure is get rid of all police. Like, we're not taking it to that extreme. And personally, I believe the same thing with the statues. Some groups are going to just push it far to this way.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about defunding the police. That they're saying defunding the police.
Oh, not defunding, abolish the police. Defunding is another movement.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's hard to get that message because you're getting mixed messages when you hear abolish the police or defund the police. Most people think, well, who's going to, if I'm in trouble, who do I dial?
I agree that we could have social workers or some other people answering calls to break up barbecues and noise complaints. And we're reaching out to our local police officers, the chiefs, and seeing what we can do to make their job easier, what we could do to make, trust in society better. Also bearing in mind that it's the system as a whole. It's not necessarily, that Arlington or Medford or Winchester have done something so egregious in this instinct. It's just the whole system. And I know these officers are feeling really stressed as well because, it's not like the officers in Arlington have done anything in terms of, what happened in Atlanta or Minnesota, even though we do want to see a better system across policing as a whole.
Right now there's a lot of unrest and people are feeling very unsettled, of course, with the backdrop of COVID-19, but usually out of situations like this, some good can come from it. And when this dust settles, I think a lot of people are going to be better educated, and we can move on from there. And hopefully we get closer to reaching that goal that everybody wants to reach. And that's ultimate peace and equality for everybody.
I hope you're right, Jeff. It seems like we got to have something positive happen this year because due to our friends down in Florida and Arizona and Texas, I'm not really confident about the rest of this year. I think COVID's going to be with us for a while, thanks to them.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a year. Hang in there. Hopefully you feel better, and thanks so much for your time, Zane.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And we thank Zane for his time as always. We hope to talk to him in the near future, of course. That'll do it for this week's edition of ACMi News. Don't forget, on July the 21st from 7 to 8:30 p.m., the town will be holding the third in a series of community conversations. Now, this conversation is called Elevating Suppressed Voices, where only people of color are going to be heard. For far too long, community members of color are spoken for or on behalf of. July 21st in Arlington is going to be a little bit different. Now, you can see all the stories we're doing for ACMi News. Just go to our website anytime. Just click on acmi.tv. We're also updating our news stories on the ACMi Facebook page every day. We encourage you to check out our Facebook page at any time because we'd love to hear your comments, as always. Also, if you want to see what town leaders are up to or events that are on the schedule, like Elevating Suppressed Voices, just go to the town website, arlingtonma.gov. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's edition of ACMi News. I'm Jeff Barn. Of course, we'll be seeing you next week. Please be safe. If you can, take care of others. Keep washing those hands. I'm telling you, you're going to thank me. You're going to write me and you're going to say, Jeff, thank you so much. I wouldn't have thought of that on my own. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next week.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.